Welcome to Bilpin Public School. Our school holds an important place in the history of Bilpin. The school is an integral part of the community, working in partnership to guide the futures of all the students who pass through the school. Approximately 1,000 students have shared part of their childhood at Bilpin and have moved on to fulfil their dreams and careers. Many students have strong links to the school. There have been children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of pioneers who have continued to select this school as their chosen location for education. Bilpin Public School has always aimed to provide the best educational opportunities for all its students, which could not have been achieved but for the outstanding commitment by the staff, parents, local families and organisations over many years. In this video you will see that many changes have taken place over the last 75 years. Many are outwardly obvious, like the improvements to the school grounds and the addition of several buildings, and some not so obvious, such as changes to the curriculum and teaching techniques. But most importantly, this video hopes to capture, in part, a snapshot of the essence, vitality and living history of this unique small school.
Just normal frocks. My mother used to make all our clothes, just normal dresses, a little skirt and a top, or just a little pretty little dress, but very, most of them were homemade in those days by material that my mother had bought from, there used to be a big shop in Currajong that sold all sorts of materials and things, and she was the sewer and she always made our clothes. Sometimes we were even barefooted if we ran out of shoes and they couldn't get us a pair in time, we'd be barefooted. But it didn't worry us. We were down the bush, and here down the back of the bush there was a little water hole, and we were allowed to run down there and paddle and do all those sort of things. But just very normal everyday clothes, no talk of uniforms at all.
I wear a dress in summer, and I wear tracksuit pants and a t-shirt and jumper in the winter.
There was no school uniform that I can recollect when I was at Bilpin. The clothes we used to wear would be just a pair of shorts and a flannel shirt and a jumper. I think it was probably grey, coloured, and a pair of shoes. Yeah, there was no school uniform that I can remember, and I can actually remember wearing a flannel shirt and shorts, maybe longer trousers in winter time, but that was all. It was just basically simple clothes. And considering that the grounds were all dirt, and the things that we used to do then, uniforms would have been not lasted very long.
I wear a grey t-shirt, green tracksuit pants and black boots.
Around 1908, 3 local women, Mrs Powell, Slingsby and Sybenthal, raised the part funds required to construct the School of Arts Hall, originally located on this site. It was designed and built by my great-great-grandfather, Alfred Slingsby. The hall contained sufficient space to accommodate a school. So in approximately 1909, a handful of local children commenced their education at the then named Norwood School. In 1927, the community received notification that their grant for a provisional school had been accepted. So on the 28th of February 1928, 12 boys and 6 girls enrolled at the newly named Bilpin Public School. The arrival of the millennium saw my daughter attend Bilpin School, a 4th generation of my family to do so.
What we did at school.
I remember we used to have sewing lessons with Mrs Parker. We used to go over to the schoolhouse where they lived and we used to have sewing lessons. The boys used to have woodwork and the girls used to have sewing.
Doing English questions and maths questions and textbooks and stuff like that. Do at school.
Play soccer and eat my lunch and run around.
My father was, I believe, the first person on the roll here at the Bilpin School when there were only 18 children enrolled. He's still alive, he's 87 now today. And I went here to school with my brother, and now my children have been through. My youngest one's now in year 6 and he'll be off to high school next year. I don't know whether their children will be coming, but I think having 3 generations coming through has been a pretty good.
I went to this school all my life, and we only went to what you call 7th class then, and there wasn't always not very many children here. I think 9, 10 would be the most we ever had, and then numbers went down and the school eventually closed. And I, at that time, with my parents and family, lived at the Pines, and there was a few children in this district, plus my brother David and sister Marion, who had to have correspondence school. And the parents were very busy with apple season at that time coming on, and they asked me, I can't tell you exactly what month it was or anything that I started, possibly after the Christmas holidays, would I be willing to come up to the school and just supervise their correspondence lessons. And I was only 14, 15 and didn't have a lot to do, and I thought, yes, that'd be great. So we used to ride up on little bikes, and my brother and sister would come on little 18-inch fixed wheel bikes with no brakes or anything up and down the hills and the dirt road, stony road. And I supervised their lessons here probably for about 3 hours during the day. And the other children, plus my brother David and Marion, and the other children were Jeffrey and Eva younger, and my brother and sister. And they're the only 4 I can remember having, but I think there might have been another girl, and for the life of me I can't remember who she was. So, and I'm not sure how long I went on for, but I think I was offered work back down at the Pines where my father lived, and helping the lady of the house who wasn't well, and also helping in the orchard. And I took that, and I went back there for several years till I was about 19, and then I went to Sydney to work. And that's about as much as I could remember, but I loved those days. They were really lovely coming here with the kids, and I think for that the parents used to give me 2 and 6pence a week, and I thought that was wonderful.
What we ate at school. A sandwich and some yogurt and some cheese. A sandwich with Vegemite.
When I was at school, we had no canteen, but what's now called Rosella's was then called the Ivy Inn, and one of the local families who lived down Mount Lagoon Road owned it and had it as a takeaway shop. And every morning it was a job of the couple of the Year 5 or Year 6 students to take the lunch orders, and they'd have an exercise book. They used to have it all drawn up, and we'd go and see those kids and they'd write down our order and they'd take our money and they'd tally it all up. Sometimes during the day the order would be phoned through to the Ivy Inn, and then about 20 minutes before lunchtime it was the job of those children to walk up to the Ivy Inn to pick up the lunch boxes and to walk back to the school and be back here in time to hand it out for lunch. That was the best job.
The only thing that was here when we were at school, which was right from kindergarten, was of course we all got milk.
I can remember the hot milk. The milk that used to be delivered here in the mornings, and it'd sit outside in the milk shed until I think it was lunchtime that we drank it.
By 1948, there were approximately 25 children enrolled at Bilpin Public School, too many to be comfortably accommodated in the School of Arts Hall. Application was made to the Department of Education, who approved the construction of the first purpose-built schoolroom, which, when completed in 1949, included a classroom, small staff office and hallway. This classroom now forms part of the main school building and is currently home to Years 5 and 6.
The games we play.
I was in a very small class. There was only 3 girls in my class right through school here. So I used to play with Bronwyn Bennett and Glenda Arachi. And I think we played house a lot. I can remember playing down by the road down there. We had a pretend house. I think that's mainly what we played.
There was only about 6 girls in my year, and so we all used to stick together. And we used to play handball and netball. We really liked netball. And when we were younger, we used to pretend that we were superheroes and play down in the trees.
Soccer, play equipment, netball, and we play with the toys that we sometimes bring in. Casey's.
During the 1950s, the school experienced its greatest period of construction and development. The Weathershed, funded jointly by the Department of Education and the newly formed Parents and Citizens Association, was commenced in 1951 and completed with the installation of the water tank in 1954. The original remained in use until 1984, when a white ant infestation necessitated its replacement with the current structure. The building behind me was completed in 1956 and housed the upper grades, with the younger children using the original classrooms. The school teachers' residence was completed in 1957, the first occupants being Mr. Walpole and family.
The work we did.
Maths, we do English, we do reading.
We did maths homework, and it's division, times and addition. We do 3 sentences and alphabetical order. We get a fair bit of homework. We do our maths mentors. We have to write out our spelling words and our dictation. We have to do on Monday our alphabetical order, and on Tuesday we do, and Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday we do some other stuff, and Friday as well.
I can't remember ever doing any homework. That doesn't mean to say that we weren't given any.
In 1966, as a result of the increased numbers of students and the deterioration of the arts hall, A third classroom was constructed which housed the infants or kindergarten children. After much agitation and persistence, in 1969 the P&C were granted funds to connect a septic system to the school toilets and schoolhouse residents. However, the work was not completed until 1972. Recent reworking of the original toilet facilities has brought about a welcome and much needed upgrade.
When we had to be punished.
I got in trouble once and I had to sit next to Miss Curry in the spelling.
I did run away from school once, actually. I ran away from school on a couple of occasions, but because I wasn't very far from home, I had a bit of a strong will. If something had happened and I felt I wasn't really responsible for it, well, I just hightail it and race up the road. And one particular time, well, it only happened twice, and on this particular time I was running out the door as opposed to lining up for the cane with a group of other boys. And I remember it was Richard Higgs was running out to me. "Go, Stephen, go, here he comes," talking about the headmaster. And I kept going, but he got hauled in and got the cane instead. Yeah.
I was playing with the rest of the group of children in the school ground area, and of course somebody hit me with something and I let out, a few naughty words, and unfortunately the school principal, Mr. Parker, was standing right behind me, so I was kind of led up to the office and I was caned about 3 times.
Well, in terms of punishments, used to cop a bit. We had one particular principal who used to have Sammy the stick. He used to have this big lump of bamboo cane. Used to walk around the room, and any time anything had happened, whammo down to the cum. So you used to get 3 cuts if you'd done not something fairly minor. You used to get 6 if you'd done something major, like throwing rocks at girls, and throwing rocks at boys, and throwing rocks at each other, and that was the usual pastime. We have the ruler. It sort of got a bit less and less as the years went on. We got the ruler, the usual things, throwing rocks at other children. They're generally punishment with rulers or canes. In the end, you sort of just got told to stand outside the office for the day.
I can remember getting in trouble for speaking during an ABC radio program, and it actually wasn't me speaking. I was sent out of the room. When I came back into the room, I told my teacher that it wasn't my fault. He made a mistake, so he'd have to wear it. And my punishment was, and I'm sure he remembers also, was to eat a box of chalk.
As enrolment numbers steadily increased, additional facilities and teachers were required. 3 demountable classrooms were progressively erected, and with the receipt of a sizable grant in 1991, the buildings received a comprehensive facelift, which included painting and guttering.
How we travelled.
I've been driving for 18 years. Started off in a little bus, doing Mount Tootie and Mount Lagoon, then I've moved on to the big bus about 8 years, and must be okay because I'm still doing it. But it's it's pretty full on. You've got to be on the ball because you've got kids screaming. One of the worst roads in the country. But you don't get bored because you're so busy.
I only got my licence about 6 years ago. I sort of stayed away from it, so I wanted to do other things in buses, and ended up coming back to it. I'd rather work with Dad than work with someone else. So got my licence, started doing it, and sort of ended up back driving my kids to school. And Eddie actually used to take me to school as well when I was a young lady.
By car.
My mum drove me to school in the car.
When we travelled to school, and this was from sort of 1955 onwards, I can remember from Currajong Heights, I think the gentleman's name was Harry Lord. We travelled in a little green Ford Prefect van with just wooden seats around the edge of the van. And I don't know, there was probably 12 or 13 kids crammed into the van, because it was basically everybody between Currajong Heights and Bilpin. From the other end of Bilpin, there was a fellow by the name of Bert Pearce who had a combi van, and he used to pick up the kids from Mount Tamar and bring them down to Bilpin. I think there was a change towards the end of the 50s to a Bedford van, and it was taken over by a gentleman by the name of Harry Connors. But it was basically those two vans that delivered the kids to school.
Well, when I came to school, we used to wait down the bottom of the road at about 8:30, and we used to wait for Mr. Pearce's sole VW panel van type thing. And it used to have bench seats on both sides. We used to have to climb up into the back, and we used to just up the back. No seat belts or anything in those days, and it was pretty crowded.
We all initially had a bike. The older brother and sister had the big bikes. They'd started off on the little 18-inch wheel bike, which is only little, the boys' bike with a bar and a hard seat, of course. That's the one I was talking about with no brakes, fixed wheel, that's no free wheel or anything. And that was handed down to each of us because there were 7 in my family, and I had to ride that one. And then later on, my aunt had given me a little pony, and some days I was allowed to ride the pony, and that I thought was beautiful, lovely. We tied up under a wattle tree here, and I'd have to get some grass for its lunch and give it water and then ride home. But that wasn't allowable very often, mostly the push bikes, and that's all we had. And sometimes I'll just say, came a buster going home, and you'd go home with skinned knees and skinned elbows, but it didn't seem to worry us. We'd get up and ride home. So that's the way I only came to school, all my school years was on those bikes. And of course I did graduate to a larger bike, which was when my sister finished with it, I got that. So
one of the biggest excitement to-dos was when the bus caught on fire with a full load of kids. I think something like about 80, 90 kids on the bus coming up from past Bill Shields. There's smoke pouring over the back, and then I see flames coming up through the floor. Found the first place to pull over. Opened the door, screamed at everybody to get off the bus as all the air melted down and everything let go, and got all the kids off the bus and got a fire extinguisher out, put the bus out, and phoned up David Schuster at the time. He came down and looked after the kids while we got another bus going. But that was pretty wild. So
Our special teachers.
This is my 5th year at Bilpin Public School. It's been my great joy and delight to be at the school. I feel very privileged that I'm part of the school community here. I work with some of the most dedicated and professional teachers that I have ever worked with. I'm also really pleased about how wonderful the children are and how committed and supportive the parents are.
Mrs. Ingersoll, because she lets us play whenever we want, not whenever we want, but when for longer.
Everything about Bilpin's wonderful. I feel really privileged to teach here. The children are really beautiful. They're relaxed and happy and eager to learn. The school has a warm atmosphere, and the school grounds are just beautiful. The staff's really friendly, and we work together as a team. All the teachers know all the children, and that's what really makes the difference in Bilpin, because all the children are special to us. We're really lucky to have Marilyn in the office. Marilyn's the first person you often get to meet when you come to our school, and she gives the school a fantastic impression. She's reliable and polite and calm, and she can do everything and anything. We're also really lucky to have Julie Curry. What a hard job Julie has in being a teaching principal. Her responsibilities are enormous, and she does a fantastic job. Finally, the Bilpin people are wonderful. They are so generous and supportive of the school, and it's the parents and the community that really make Bilpin a special place to be.
I commenced at Bilpin on 7th of September in 1992. I remember that date because it was my son's 16th birthday. And I've enjoyed the 10 years that I've been here at Bilpin. I've seen lots of changes. We've actually reached 100 students in that time, which the school had never seen before. And I've really enjoyed working with the staff here, the past principal that I've worked under, Mr David Schuster, and the teachers, and our present principal, Miss Julia Curry. The staff are just fantastic. They've put a lot of work in and they do a lot of extra time for the children. The community's great. You really feel like you're part of it, and their support has been very much appreciated over the time. The changes that I've seen in the school, especially in technology, where I deal with mostly, just in the office itself, everything's done on the computer. We've networked all the classrooms. The children have access to the internet, and they're learning tremendously well with the technology that we have.
Harry Walpole, and my recollections of him was he was a wonderful man. We didn't seem to be learning. We seemed to spend a lot of time outside and a lot of time listening to him read the Magic Pudding. And my only other memory is him standing us all out in the front of the room and saying, if we'd misbehaved, and saying, get back to your seats, and then trying to whip us all with a cane as we got past him.
You know, when I was first teaching out west, I used to drive past this school and think, that's a really lovely school. I'd like to teach there. And who would have imagined that it would have happened?
I love the environment of Bilpin School. It's a very caring staff, and we always get lots of support from the parents in all our teaching activities, and it's also a beautiful place to live and work.
I didn't really have a favourite teacher at school. I liked all my teachers. They were all good teachers. Yeah, I didn't really have a favourite.
Okay, well, I've been at Bilpin School for approximately 2.5 years, and I'm a special assistant. I used to be a preschool director, so my sort of qualifications are helping children with special needs, and at the moment I'm doing courses in special needs so I can help my little girl Katrina to achieve more of her goals in life. And the school is a beautiful school. It's the main reason I like it is it's got the same school uniform, I suppose, as my children had same uniform as I had when I was little, and it's just friendly, and the kids are open and honest, and it's just a nice little country community. Everyone they're great people to be with. Thank you.
I can't believe that I'm teaching at Bilpin School now, because when I became a teacher I was bonded either to teach in Canberra or the Northern Territory, and so I never ever thought that I'd be teaching here. I taught in Canberra for many years, and then in the holidays we used to drive up past the school to visit my parents who still live in Bilpin, and often I'd look at the school and think, oh, what a beautiful school it's turned out to be, the gardens are so lovely, wouldn't it be lovely to teach there? And then in 1994 I ended up coming back up here to live and found myself with a job at the school. I love it. From the moment I walked in I felt like I'd come back home, and I still love it. The kids are great, the staff's great, the community's great.
Bilpin School's always been a special place for me because it was my first appointment. I particularly like the children here and the environment that we live in.
My favourite teacher would have to either be Mrs. Jensen or Mr. Hines, and Mrs. Jensen was my Year 2 teacher, and she was great. It was really welcoming to come into her classroom and have a lesson from Mrs. Jensen, and Mr. Hines was great as well because he's a really good teacher, and he was able to sort of drill into you things which were otherwise pretty mundane. So yeah, it'd be one of the two.
Missing Sol, because she was my kindergarten teacher.
I suppose having been here for 18 years and having had such a wonderful time here, it's worthwhile saying just a few things about how lovely this community is, and certainly couldn't say that without mentioning how wonderful the students have been, certainly the staff that I've worked with over many years, and the parents and community. And I've travelled a lot of kilometres in my time from as far away as Auburn, and always it's been a worthwhile thing. People often say to me, why have I been travelling so far for so long? But it's just that it's just such a wonderful place to come to. I've always been very comfortable here. People have made me feel very comfortable, and such nice people. It's great to spend such time with. So it's been a lovely time, and it's a great community, a lovely little school, and perhaps one day when I move on, I'll be obviously very upset about it, but I'll have something wonderful to look back on. And all of those people have been great, and it's just been such a pleasure to be here.
Mr. Hines, he was always my favourite, and he's still here, so I have to say it as well though. He was always good though, always gave all the kids all his time whenever they needed help with anything, so definitely him.
This is the third small school that I've worked in, and of all the places I've worked in, small schools have that wonderful quality of being a family-based school that has so much caring and nurturing that happens in the school. And I think of all the schools that you could go to, small school like Bilpin is one of the highlights of your career.
I've been at Bilpin for 3 years now, and I job share with Julie Shields, which is really good and I really enjoy it. And I love coming here because it's a beautiful place, the staff are really friendly, the kids are lovely, and I wouldn't really want to be anywhere else.
I've been here since the beginning of this year. It's a fantastic school. I'd only driven past it before because I come from Kermont. I'm blown away by the gardens, and the children are extremely polite, friendly, intelligent. I'd have to say I've done casual for many years in the area, and it's probably the best school to do casual at because the children can get a joke, but they don't carry it too far. I'm in the library, and that's quite new to me, and I'm really enjoying it.
The whole time I was here, I only ever had 2 teachers. I had Mrs. Davey when I was in the infants, up to about year 4, and then Mr. Parker in years 5 and 6. And I think, like all the other girls at the school at that stage, I had a great big crush on Mr. Parker, and I'd have to say he was my favourite. We all loved him. He was gorgeous.
Our P&C.
The Parents and Citizens Association officially commenced operation in 1952 at the instigation of the principal, Mr. Reg Kennedy, and the local school inspector, Mr. Cash, with the aim of assisting the teachers to improve the quality of education delivered. Over the years, the P&C has helped raise funds to construct a weathershed, dam, water tanks, canteen and garden areas. It's also purchased books, safety lights, plants and many other items as needed. Members have lobbied local, state and federal government on issues as varied as the speed limits on Bell's Line of Road to the septic and sewage systems. Many dedicated parents have volunteered their time, whether holding positions on committees, attending meetings and making lunches at the school canteen, or simply hammering a nail in, baking a cake or planting a garden bed. Their contributions to their school and indeed their community have been invaluable.
Well, in P&C days then, certain issues were always predominant, and it was either the school uniform or the septic system. That was our dream, to get a septic system. And the pit toilets, they were well looked after and adequate, but all the other schools were getting septic systems and built them. Didn't seem to be able to. Letters went back and forth to the Department of Education, and I think they used to use the excuse that there was no adequate water supply. anyhow, finally we said, well, what about a bit of self-help? So Brian had a bulldozer, and so he said, well, tell them that I'll dig a dam for them, and they can pipe the water up to the toilet. So anyhow, finally, I can't remember, it so long ago, how long all this took, but finally they agreed that if Brian would dig this dam, they would accept the offer. But there had to be, it had to be all legalised, so they produced this contract whereby they paid Brian $1 and he dug the dam, which has held well all these years. And Alec Bennett kindly provided the fuel, the diesel fuel. So they were very pleased with themselves doing this. And it all worked very well.
It was a very exciting day. Governor-General came to present Bilpin School with its own flag, and we put in a luncheon for him, which was a very extravagant affair. And there were 3 mothers, myself and Janine, I think, and Judy. I hope I got their names right. And of course Marilyn Chapman was everywhere as usual. And we had a special assembly. I remember had to be with the assembly, had to be helping with the cooking and the setting up and everything, and it was very busy, very exciting, very nervous day. And we were told that we could either curtsy or shake hands, and I think I did both. I couldn't remember. But he had a lovely day, mixed in with the kids, really down to earth. His wife was an ex-actress, and we just clicked and had a beautiful lunch, and then regretfully they had to leave. And we had all this food left over, and we had apple pie for dessert, which they were eyeing off, and regretfully didn't have time to have it. So as we were all walking out the door, guess who said, would you like to take an apple pie with you? And they did, they accepted it, and I was, but I don't think I was really supposed to do something like that. I don't think it's a dumb thing. But when David Schuster got a letter back thanking them for the visit, they did mention to thank Mrs. Barnstable with a P for the lovely apple pies that she gave them. So I don't think I did too bad.
Actually, I don't have any special memory that sort of sticks out in my head. I've enjoyed being the president of the P&C. It actually gives me a bit of insight into what's going on in the school now, whereas before I didn't have that. And having children at the school for the last 12 years, it really brings me out and showing me what's going on in the school now.
I suppose it was in about 1988, 89, and we didn't have a formal canteen as such, so the children could order sausage rolls, pies, drinks, not much besides, probably a pack of chips, and then we'd come in the morning, collate it all, and then fly down to Richmond, pick it all up, bring it all back, and then serve it out to them, and it was only at lunchtime. And from memory, I think we only did that twice a month. It wasn't a twice a week or anything like that, because there just wasn't enough people to be able to facilitate it. So yeah, that's what we used to do. It wasn't very much variety, but the kids liked it, so yeah.
Our school song.
I came to Bilpin School at the beginning of 1991, and one of the first jobs of that year was to clean out the dungeon, that storage room underneath. We did it because we wanted to see if we could find any equipment, what equipment was there, and also to have a good tidy up. Now, in that process, we found a bundle of old cardboard, which had obviously been reused and put out for recycling. And when we looked at it a little bit more carefully, we saw on the top of one a heading that said Bilpin School Song. Now, we got excited about this because we didn't think there was a school song. We didn't know about one anyway. And when we read the lyrics, we thought, fantastic, they sounded really good. But at the bottom, in brackets, there was a sentence that said, sung to the tune of Advance Australia Fair. Well, obviously, when the song was written, Advance Australia Fair wasn't our national anthem, but now that it wasn't very appropriate to have our school song sung in the same tune. So we put it to one side to have a little think about. And by the end of the day, I thought I'd take it home and have a go. I didn't think it would be that hard to write a melody to go to such good words. But we got home and Tim helped me, we sat down, and it was hard. We found it extremely difficult to come up with something that we thought was good. Now that weekend we had a visitor staying at our place, and she was something of a musician, and she said she'd take it home and have a go at it, which she did. And at the end of the fortnight she'd come up with something that she thought was quite good. Now she worked at the time at Sydney Uni at the music department, and the boss there was Professor Anne Boyd, who's quite a well-known Australian composer, and she had a little listen to it, and she was thrilled. She thought it was really terrific. So having got the big tick from her, we felt a bit more confident. Chrissy made a tape, a piano tape of the song, and sent it off to the school, and I taught the school population, as it was then in 1991, the school song as we know it today. So that's the history of the school song as I know it. And unfortunately, we have no idea who the poet was who wrote such good lyrics. Maybe somebody out there knows it. But we can thank Christine Miles for the music.